Well, we turn our attention to FR Americas, and we're looking at the man who is the man of the day so far, Jordan Missig, a good commentator and a dash good racer. He proved that in race one by winning. And I'm joined by John Phippen once again. And John, I just mentioned the fact that the FR Regional Championship may be a young series, but it's gaining ground quickly, and we're starting to develop the stars, the whole intention of this championship.
Absolutely right. It's the second step on the five-step ladder from karting all the way up to the top step of the ladder in the FIA ranks, and that is, of course, the Formula One World Championship. We started our Formula Regional Americas Championship in 2018, was our first year of competition, and we've only got one driver in our field that has competed in two of those 3 years, and that is Logan Cusson, who finished 12th in the 2019 championship and finished 8th in the championship a year ago in 2020. 9 of our 13 drivers are new to the series this year, and they cover 6 states and 6 countries. So it's a very international field. You would think with the name Formula Regional Americas that it would be limited to North American drivers. Not the case. Both the Formula 4 U.S. Championship and our championship are open to all comers, and we have a very international field. But it was really designed for these drivers to work their way up through the FIA ladder and have an opportunity to race in Europe.
And that's an important factor you mentioned, that it's open to all comers, because a part of this is Americans can't gauge where they are on the world stage, and this is an international series. Certainly when you start to get into FIA F3, which is an international series but the same car, if you want to be the next Logan Sargent, the next Jack Crawford, and I'm talking about the Americans, Juan Manuel Correa or Ryan Yardley from New Zealand, you've got to leave your own country and race somewhere else to see just how good, if you're coming from a small country like New Zealand, you are. But for the Americans, a bigger country, perhaps with more money and more potential, if you're from Mexico, if you're from Canada, if you're from the rest of the world, we want good talent here, like Josh Carr from Australia, for example, because we want to see where you need to know. It's no good winning the American Championship and then suddenly going international racing and realizing actually that was easy. So there's a reason for wanting to have other people here.
Yeah, exactly right. And you know, the American racing scene has always been sort of parochial, for want of a better term. You know, the pinnacle of open wheel racing in this country, you know, has always been thought of as IndyCar, and that's what a lot of folks aspire to, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. The IndyCar series is a very international series as well, but the FIA, which sanctions Formula One and racing all over the world, of course, really is a different draw. And you know, the success of Formula One in this country, with its new home down at Circuit of the Americas, your home track, of course, has really begun to blossom, and Formula One is really beginning to get a toehold here in North America that it hasn't had for years. You know, Formula One racers were not really household names as they are all around the world, except in North America, and that is gradually changing. So it's great to have the opportunity for these drivers to work in the FIA system and finally have an opportunity and a direct path to get to the top levels in Europe.
It's interesting you describe it as an American as parochial, because as a European, I always look at this as being not a closed shop, but because it's so saturated with motorsport of its own kind.
Exactly.
And because America is such a vast, wealthy country, that to break into America as a foreigner, and I'm talking about racing, but also
Sure.
They say the same in music, make it in America. You know, we talk about the British invasion.
Yeah.
Yeah, how many are there?
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Rolling Stones, the Beatles, but after that, you know. But my point is, coming to America and being established in America is a very hard thing for a sportsman to do.
Sure.
Because it's a saturated world. You've got enough here and enough talent here that
Exactly.
you don't need foreign talent. So yes, someone like Josh Carr does stand out because the Australians know, boy, he's making it in America. He's not just made it in Australia.
Yeah. It's a good benchmark, I think. And you know, but by the same token, as an American, you know, I'm jazzed about young men like Kyle Kirkwood, you know, the Floridian, on the cusp of perhaps winning the Indy Lights Championship. He has swept all before him in every open wheel series that he has taken part in. He was the champion of the F4 U.S. Series, of course, but also...
And he did it by winning like pretty much most of the races he ever entered.
Exactly right. And
I
then
think
he
his
stepped up.
database is like 75% win rate.
Exactly. He stepped up into the Formula Regional America Series, won that on the trot at his first opportunity, and then because that predated the new scholarship that Honda has put together for the winner of the Formula Regional Americas Championship to race in the Japanese Super Formula Championship in 2022. That was before Kyle's time. So he, made the lateral move over to the road to Indy, swept everyone before him in USF 2000, did the same in Indy Pro 2000, and he is about to win, if he does, and our fingers are crossed for him, he's about to win his sixth championship on the trot from one to the other without having to take an off season, if you will. But let's turn our attention to the race that's about to happen here. This is race number 2 of the weekend for the Formula Regional America drivers. We have 13 cars on the starting grid, and there's been a little shuffle in the starting grid based on a penalty, sadly, that was assessed to Joshua Carr because that first turn incident that basically knocked Josh back out of the race was judged to be his fault. He made contact with Ernie Francis Jr. and created a problem for him, and so the stewards have reviewed the footage of that incident and have penalized Josh 5 starting positions from where he would have started. So he would have started on the front row, but he'll be starting in row 3 because of that penalty. But let's introduce the field nonetheless. Starting alone in row 7 will be the 29 of Nick Persing from Morgan Hill, California for Velocity Racing Development. He did not get a time in the race because his transponder malfunctioned, so he'll have to start in the 7th row by himself. Kevin Janzen making his first start with us with a locally based team, the Wisco team. Kevin in from Boca Raton, Florida, in that number 24 car with the Wisco racing team, making his first start with us here this weekend. Alongside him in row 6 is the 99 of Logan Cusson, who had a troubled start to the weekend as he spun off during the formation lap and never really recovered, finished some laps down, so he'll start in 11th spot. Now into the top 10 in row 5 on the outside, the Frenchman Baptiste Berthelot from Reims, France for TJ Speed Motorsport. He is in car number 17. Next to him, Varun Choksey, the man who is currently 4th in the championship points out of Alpharetta, Georgia, sponsored by ADR and Melon Seed. Varun, also a TJ Speed Motorsports driver. In row number 4 on the outside is the 98 of Ernie Francis Jr. from Southwest Ranches, Florida for Future Star Racing, based by the sponsored as well, should we say, by the Wings and Wheels Foundation. Next to him, Arias Deukmedjian from Merritt Island, Florida, stepping into the 11 car for Velocity Racing Development. You talked to Hunter Yaney down on the grid. He would normally be in that car, but Hunter making the transition to the European racing and should be at Sochi this weekend, but as he said, had a family commitment that made it impossible for him to do that, so they gave Arias the drive in his car here this weekend. Josh Carr will start 6th. He is 2nd in the points championship, albeit almost an insurmountable distance back from Sydney, Australia for Crosslink Coatings and the Crosslink competition team. Next to him is Ryan Yardley, the New Zealander, who did a fantastic job this weekend. Ryan qualifies 5th for this race from Christchurch, New Zealand. Kiwi Motorsport and Helmet Health sponsoring him. Moving forward into row number 4, another debutant here from the Kiwi Motorsport stable, Cooper Becklin in the number 91 car out of West Lynn, Oregon. Cooper had a couple starts with us in the F4 Championship a year ago, but has been moved up into the FR Championship here at VIR. Is starting in the 3rd spot. Car number 14 is Dylan Tavella out of Massapequa, New York for Crosslink Coatings and Crosslink Competition. The series points leader and almost champion, Kyffin Simpson in the number 21, will start 2nd. Out of the Grand Cayman Islands, Simpson Race Products, GoPro, and Spy Optics sponsor his machine for the TJ Speed Motorsports stable. And your pole sitter, the winner finally of a race in this series, in this morning's first round, Jordan Missig in the number 48 car out of Shanahan, Illinois, sponsored by the Audubon Country Club. Jordan will start on the pole, and if he gets the kind of start he got this morning, he may disappear into the sunset. But there are some drivers right behind him, Kyffin Simpson for one, who would like nothing more than to take over that top spot. The points battle, There are 61 points now between Josh Carr and Kyffin Simpson. That's over 2 races worth. It's going to be a tall order for Josh to win this championship. Jordan Missig is in third, but he's a further almost 60 points back. And so those 3 are the only drivers who are still mathematically in the hunt for the championship with 5 races left to go, including the one we're just about to start. 35 minutes, the time of this race. It is a timed race, not a lap count race, as the light sequence is just now about to begin. Again, you'll hear these Honda turbocharged motors come up on the rev limiters as the drivers wait for all the lights to go out. There's 5 lights, and we're away. And a good start once again for Jordan Missig. Dylan Tavella jumps right in behind Kyffin Simpson, who tries to keep in behind him as they make the run down to the horseshoe. Look at this gaggle of cars a little further back, 4 wide as they head into the horseshoe right now. As they make their way through, and it looks like Jordan Missig has been able to maintain the lead with Kyffin Simpson now right behind him, and then the car of Dylan Tavella in that 3rd spot as they work their way through NASCAR and head toward the left hook.
My estimate is that Josh Carr will push as hard as he's ever pushed because he knows it's make or break for this championship in this race alone.
Yeah.
So he's got to get something out of it.
He has to win, basically, he has to win out and hope for some bad luck from Kyffin Simpson if he has any chance for the championship. So you can see him back there in about 6th or 7th spot. He's just biding his time on these opening laps, getting tires up to temperature as these drivers beginning to work their way through the wonderfully flowing climbing S's here at VIR. As Jordan Missig told us, it is such a joy to drive with these cars. They have so much downforce that they can just whip their way through that section of track flat on the throttle. As we can see Josh Carr up there chasing behind, I believe that's Varun Choksey just in front of him, but we'll sort it out as they come around to complete race lap number 1.
Yeah, good clean start, exactly what we wanted, and we want as little safety as possible in terms of little safety car as possible, as we want to give these guys a good run of good 30-minute racing.
There's Ryan Yardley, the New Zealander, who was so dominant in this morning's race, finishing on the podium, doing a great job to come home in 3rd spot, but was in the lead battle virtually the entire race long. Coming under our commentary position and across the line, Jordan Missig, your leader. Kyffin Simpson in 2nd, Ryan Yardley in 3rd, Arias Deukmedjian in the 4th spot, Ernie Francis Jr. in 5th, Dylan Tavella in 6th, Varun Choksey and Josh Carr 7th and 8th, Logan Cusson and Baptiste Berthelot rounding out the top 10 after just a single racing lap.
I talked to Ryan Yardley between races, and I said, you know, 1.5 years off racing, what was the hardest part? And he said, my shoulders. He said, I can work out and stay fit, but it's one of those muscles that you don't really work that hard. And he said, suddenly he got out of the car and he said, these are physical cars. And he said, my shoulders just hurt like hell.
I can imagine. The battle between Deukmedjian and Ernie Francis Jr. is a good one. We can see that just behind us. Deukmedjian in the 11, Ernie Francis in the 98, as they're right in our shot. Great job by our camera crew here, as Ernie is all over the back of Deukmedjian looking for that 4th spot. Then a little bit of a gap back to Dylan Tavella, Varun Choksey, and Josh Carr, all running in close formation as they come into the Oak Tree Bend on race lap number 2. Just about now is the time when these Hankook tires are pretty much fully up to temperature and the drivers can really begin to push. But as we talked about in the earlier race, with these FR cars, because they have so much more aerodynamics than their F4 counterparts, it's really tough to follow closely behind. As Ernie is making his move now, as he's ducked alongside Arias Deukmedjian in the run down toward the roller coaster, one of the best passing opportunities on the racetrack. Status quo in front of them, but they've sorted it out, and I think Ernie has taken over that 4th spot.
Nicely done, Ernie Francis Jr. then. His first season of single-seaters ever. He's done a little bit of karting, but really he is a stock car guy and has been in Trans Am to 7 titles, I may add, but this is all new to him, and look how well he's adapting.
He just set the fastest lap of the race after making that pass. So Ernie Francis Jr., he's going to catch up with these top 3 as Yardley thinks about a pass on Kyffin Simpson as he goes around the outside at the horseshoe. Can't quite make it stick, but he might have an opportunity here into NASCAR. Kyffin Simpson, again, as we talked about earlier, Jonathan, obviously is because he's got such a big points lead, he needs to just be careful. He needs to finish the races, score as many points as possible. He doesn't need to do anything stupid and, stick his nose where it doesn't belong. So Kyffin is going to be driving, let's say, conservatively, but obviously he would love to win another race. He's already got 5 wins to his credit. He'd love to get a 6th one before this weekend is out.
Yeah, and of course, Ryan Yardley is effectively a teammate to Josh Carr, so he is trying to gun for Kyffin Simpson and try and keep him behind him, but he's not got past him yet, but that's certainly in his mind. But now Ernie comes into the game, so this is the last thing that Kyffin Simpson needs is 2 hot shoes, one who's already had a win and the other who's just coming into the series but is serious about his business.
Exactly, and this battle at the front has begun to close up as we've got 2, 4, 6, 8 cars all nose to tail. In the race earlier this morning, Jordan Missig was able to get away and just disappear into the sunset. Not the case, as Kyffin Simpson is challenging him for the lead in the run down the back straightaway, heading toward the roller coaster here. So Jordan Missig is not having as easy a go of it as he had this morning, where he was out in front by as much as 7 seconds at one point.
Yeah, this is a great race, and Ernie's closing in on Yardley as well. But you're right, Missig, after that first race where it was plain sailing, is now under massive pressure as they head down past our commentary position again.
Once again, it is Jordan Missig out in front. Simpson, Yardley, Francis, and Deukmedjian, your top 5. Dylan Tavella, a bit resurgent as he's closed in on the back of Deukmedjian, only about a half a second back. Varun Choksey and then Josh Carr. Josh has not found his way around the DJ Speed Motorsport driver Choksey to get up into 7th spot. So once again, he's got his work cut out for him if he's going to have any chance of taking the championship away from Kyffin Simpson.
Tight as you like, very close
man,
indeed.
yeah.
Yardley under pressure, somebody out.
Yeah, somebody slow and off the pace.
He's got back going again.
Yeah, he has. I think he may have dropped a wheel off there out of NASCAR. We see a lot of cars go wide there at that NASCAR bend and drop some wheels off in the grass, and that takes a while to get that momentum back up. No change in the top 4. There's Ernie Francis at the back of that battle, and a little gap back to Deukmedjian with Dylan Tavella just behind him. There's our man second in the points, Joshua Carr, in that number 9 with the recognizable green livery.
But I tell you what, he's got time to get on pace with this, boys,
Look at
especially
this.
as they fight. Look at this, 3 wide down the back straight.
Ernie Francis, Ryan Yardley, and Kyffin Simpson going 3 wide. Jordan Missig looking in his mirrors is smiling because as those guys are battling one another, that gives him the clear track to drive away just a little bit.
But out of that, Ernie Francis Jr. is up to 2nd.
Absolutely right. Ernie is not afraid to stick his nose in there as he knows how to drive a car fast if he has to. So Ernie Francis Jr. looking perhaps for his 2nd win on the season in his first year of open wheel racing. I wouldn't count him out.
Well, there's an irony because there's a young Carter that's racing in Trans Am who got literally the unofficial lap record in TA2 this morning, just 15 years of age, so following in the footsteps of Ernie Francis Jr. as a potential either Trans Am driver or single-seater driver, given he's a kart expert. Yeah, it's interesting what you can find at VIR of a day.
That car that was off on the outside of turn number 3 was Varun Choksey in the 19 cars. He's fallen back to 10th position. Cooper Becklin, another driver making his first start in the Formula Regional Americas car in the 91 for Helmut House and Kiwi competition, up to 9th position and just set the fastest lap of the race. So Cooper Becklin, a driver out of West Lynn, Oregon, making his first start in the series and showing he's got good pace. Josh Carr now has caught up to the back of this battle with Dylan Tavella. That's his teammate right in front of him. I don't know if there'll be any team orders on the radio, but Dylan might be obliged. Oh, and we've got a spinner.
Oh, big time.
And that is Arias Deukmedjian, who has gone around in the 11 car, did some damage to the front wing. I saw some carbon fiber split off of that car as he ducked that nose.
I don't think he'll have stalled that, don't you?
Yeah, I have a feeling that car may be high-centered in the grass, and he will not be able to get going again, and that, of course, will bring out a safety car if he's unable to get that car rolling. At the moment, we're still green. I'm listening to race control in one ear, and they're discussing their plan, but they're giving him an opportunity to get that car rolling again. If he can get it pointed back the right direction, we might be able to avoid a safety car here. Meanwhile, a 2-car battle at the front. Missig and Ernie Francis Jr. Ryan Yardley, the New Zealander, right behind them in 3rd, then Kyffin Simpson in 4th. there it is. He got it going again. Good job to Arias Deukmedjian to get that car re-rolling, but he's got a damaged front wing for sure, so he'll have to be a little circumspect as he works his way around the rest of this race. Getting a replay of it here, just carried a little too much speed through the climbing S's. Nobody caused that. It got away from him on his own. And a good bit of defensive driving there from the cars just behind him to avoid a further incident. So that's put paid to the hopes of Arias Deukmedjian for a top finish. But a great camera shot here, looking at the Michelin bridge just under the drive-over bridge, just under the snake part of the racetrack. There's Jordan Missig, there's Ernie Francis, there's Yardley right behind him, and Kyffin Simpson, the points leader. Josh Carr now up to 5th position as he was able to take advantage of that miscue by Arias Deukmedjian to get around his teammate Dylan Tavella. He's a bit further back. He's about 2 seconds behind this battle that we're watching. So Josh Carr will have to pedal quickly to catch up to the back of those. But yeah, a little bit of bobble by Jordan Missig, just as it looked like he was going to try to get away. And look how much momentum it's cost him.
Yeah.
Ernie Francis is getting closer and closer and closer at the top end of the straightaway.
The thing about this is Ernie's a winner here at Virginia in Trans Am. He knows this track so well. So that side of it, the actual strategy and where to go fast and where to look for an overtake and where to put pressure on, is in his wheelhouse from Trans Am, which is probably a lot harder in some ways than these single-seater cars. So he is absolutely in his element here, race-wise.
Yeah, it's really interesting. When they raced together at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, my home track, the lap time of these cars and the Trans Am cars was virtually identical at Mid-Ohio. They obviously make their speed in very different ways.
Yeah.
The Trans Am car with 850 horsepower jumping off the corners with all the traction that they generate, but obviously without all the wings and the downforce, they can't take the corners as quickly. So they make speed in entirely different ways. And I think about Ernie having to recalibrate himself on the same race weekend from this high downforce car flowing through the turns, getting back into his big ground-pounding Trans Am car with a very different dynamic. That's got to be a tough job for him to decide, hey, which car am I in here and how do I drive it?
Yeah, the braking alone compared to his Trans Am, obviously, which is soft. Oh, who's that?
Somebody off. I think that's at the left.
It's a VRD car.
Yeah, and I think it might be Deukmedjian again.
Yeah,
no, it's the 29 car of Nick Persing who is off. A teammate to Arias Deukmedjian. Nick Persing was lapping in the 13th spot, but he has gone off right there at the left hook, I believe.
Now that should probably bring out the safety car then if it's at left hook.
Yep, they're saying that's at turn 11. I'm sorry,
okay.
That's just at the exit of the Oak Tree Bend. But still in a place where if he can't get started, he did back into the tire barrier. I could see that the rear wing was deranged, but he might be able to get that car refired and avoid a safety car here. As we go back to the front, Jordan Missig still holding on to the lead. Ernie Francis piling on the pressure. Ryan Yardley, the New Zealander, right behind him. Then Kyffin Simpson. Josh Carr trying to catch up with this battle, just set the fastest lap of the race. You can see him just a little further back in this great drone shot that we've got here. Kudos to the Green Light crew for providing these beautiful images. This drone shot adds so much, as you were saying, Jonathan.
Perspective,
it's so much better perspective as you can see the sort of bird's eye view.
Well, especially coming into Horseshoe where we're looking now, because you get to see who's braking well, who's looking for an overtake, and where they're going to make it, which you can't always see from ground level.
And look at Josh Carr making up ground in big chunks here, but it looks like we are going to go to the safety car.
Yeah.
These drivers have been alerted of that. They've got a yellow light on their dashboard that the race director can click on remotely so that they know immediately when a yellow flag has been called, and that neutralizes the race. There's no more passing. They know to reduce to basically safety car speed and to back up one against the other. And they'll be picked up by Stefan Bistricki, who is driving the safety car this weekend. James Rogerson, our normal safety car driver. There's Stefan catching up to the front of the field. Our normal safety car driver is up at Indianapolis competing in the runoffs next weekend. And so he had to turn the safety car driving chores over to Stefan this weekend. But Stefan, a very accomplished pilot on his own right, will have no trouble getting the job done.
That's
again,
a mess.
it's for Nick Persing, and that is at the at the Oak Tree Bend. As you can see, he carried a little too much speed through the first part of that right-hander and backed it into the tire barrier, unable to get it refired, and that's why we're going to need to rely on the safety crew. We've still got 20 minutes remaining in this race, plenty of time. Jordan Missig, your leader, Ernie Francis Jr. in second, Ryan Yardley in third, Kyffin Simpson fourth, Josh Carr into the fifth spot. There's a problem for Dylan Tavella in the 14 as he is into the pit lane, and the crew with the engine cowling off and with towels, that usually means there's an oil leak or something under that rear engine cowling. So they're having a look to see what it is, but sadly that's going to put paid to the effort of Dylan Tavella, coming off a pretty good finish in second spot, one of his best finishes of the season. He does have a win already this year at Road America, but his second place finish in this morning's race, his best finish in some time. But looks like that's not going to be repeated, as there is an issue with that power plant that they're working to try to get solved. So that's a tough break for Dylan Tavella, currently being shown in 12th.
Well, I know one man who's a good restarter, and that's Josh Carr, second in the championship. And again, I keep saying it, but if he's got to take advantage of the opportunity in front of him, because he's running out of opportunities, given that he gave one away this morning. There he is in the number 9, and he needs this restart. And it looks as though Tavella's back out there again. So that's good.
Yeah, they've got whatever, perhaps they discovered a leak of some kind, got it solved, and put the engine cowling back on. So Dylan will be able to catch back up, and he's still on the lead lap as of this moment. Of course, as my friend Dorsey Schrader is wont to say, yellows frequently breed yellows. So with the field all packed up, let's hope these drivers mind their P's and Q's. We would expect the most from these drivers. They're more experienced. Most of them have had at least a full season of F4 championship racing before joining the Formula Regional Americas Championship. If they don't have F4 experience, they do have to have some commensurate open wheel experience before being eligible to run in this series. So you expect better things out of them, and let's hope that they can keep it clean for the rest of the way. Both the incidents we've had so far have been self-inflicted, so that's always good to see. And we can see Jordan Missig beginning to accelerate as he's going to do his best to get out in front of Ernie Francis Jr. The two of them have built a nice lead over the third place battle with Ryan Yardley and Kyffin Simpson.
Good restart from Ernie. He's going to the outside, going to get a challenge surely, and he knows he can go round the outside here and go all the way.
He's right with him still there. He'll have the inside line at NASCAR if he can stay where he is, and he's done it. Ernie Francis has got a nose ahead.
That's track knowledge by Ernie. He's done that in Trans Am, and now he's done it in single seaters. Brilliant stuff.
Absolutely. Ernie Francis at the front, looking for his second win on the season as they tiptoe through that left hook with cold tires and getting back up to speed. Ernie beginning to draw away just a little bit. Jordan Missig then with Ryan Yardley behind him, and Josh Carr has moved up to fourth. He got around Kyffin Simpson.
Yeah, while we were concentrating on the leaders, one of the most important overtakes of the season just happened, and that's Josh Carr getting ahead of Kyffin Simpson, the championship leader. It doesn't make a great difference to Kyffin, and he's got to hold his head, but it means a lot to Josh Carr.
Absolutely. Everything he can do to get as far forward as he can and hope for some help. And Josh goes a little wide. That's going to open the door for Kyffin to retake that position as they accelerate down this winding back straightaway, winding up and down, not so much. It's a straight shot to the roller coaster, but a very uphill downhill as we see. I think that may be the car of Baptiste Berthelot. It looks like a problem with the rear suspension. Is that the rear they're looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like something's broken in the rear suspension on Berthelot's car. That's another of the TJ Speed Motorsports stable machines. As we've got Ernie Francis beginning to draw away from this field now, as he got a sniff of the lead, and he's beginning to stretch it.
Important sector this one for Josh Carr, because you were talking about help. He's got Ryan Yardley in front of him, and I'm sure there'll be kind of team orders there to help Josh Carr. But already Ryan Yardley going up to second place. He's past Missig now, and Kyffin Simpson cannot at this point get past Josh Carr. This race is really heating up now. Really good stuff. And Ryan Yardley moving up to second place and in pursuit now of Ernie Francis Jr. What a comeback to racing for the young Christchurch New Zealander.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if Jordan Missig has got a problem of some kind, because he's lost 2 positions in as many laps now as he has given up a couple spots. Let's see if Josh Carr can make quick work of the Newman Wax Racing driver. Kyffin Simpson staying right with him. Ernie Francis getting away, then Yardley. Then Jordan Missig, who won this morning and had the lead here. Look at Josh really make up ground through the climbing S's right on the back.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much as Missig's got a problem as just that the others made some really good moves.
Yeah, exactly right.
Now, Josh has tucked himself up perfectly out of Oak Tree, and now he's got a great chance, but so too is Kyffin. If he gets this wrong, Kyffin will pass.
Yeah, exactly right. Ernie's getting away at the front, and Yardley doing the same. So let's see if these two can draft together and catch up to the back of Jordan Missig.
Oh,
yeah, that's
Berthelot's
car with that broken suspension. Yeah, I don't know if he maybe hit one of the curbs or if that may have created the issue. But here's the battle for third with Josh Carr and Jordan Missig and Kyffin Simpson. These three drivers are the only ones who are mathematically still in the championship.
Great stuff here at VIR as they cross the strip one more time. 8 minutes to go, just over. Far from over. Oh, safety car is out.
So someone else must be off that we don't see here, as the safety car is picking up the field once again.
Well, that gives Kyffin Simpson another bite at a retake on Josh Carr.
As we see, we have not yet seen Varun Choksey, Kevin Janzen, or Arias Deukmedjian come by the stripe.
There's your problem.
Yeah, there's two cars involved there. Choksey is one of them. I can tell by the color. But the car in the shade is difficult to see.
Yeah. Looks like one of the they come together quite heavily.
Yeah, I think so. Actually,
they're on top of each other. Oh no, that's just the one car.
Yeah, it's
Sorry,
just the one.
I was completely confused.
As was I. Yeah, the shadow
like really, two cars, didn't it?
It is just one. That is Choksey.
Thank you, Logan. He just changed his iris for us.
Yeah.
But for a moment there, because of the way the sun was, it looked like two cars. But no, just the one.
Yeah, Choksey climbing out of the car. Green flag scheduled at about 9:15, and Jonathan and I will have the call for you on the screen.
Look forward to it. So as they come out of Hog Pen, it's Ernie Francis Jr., the young man from Florida who's just 23 years of age and has already picked up 7 national titles in Trans Am, and now his second victory in single-seaters at the highest level, I may add. These are the guys who are going to be in IndyCar or F1 in the future, and Ernie is absolutely up to the task of taking them on. All of them have more experience than him at this level and in these cars. Most of them have come through the ranks of karting and from Formula 4 and up. Not Ernie Francis Jr. He's a stock car driver all through and through. So to see him doing this at this level is absolutely amazing. The Breathless Racing team can certainly rest well tonight, but they'll have to do it all again tomorrow. And of course, that will also involve his TA race. But that didn't bother Ernie. He's had weekends where he's done all 3 championships, and I include the CBS SRX championship that Ray Everingham and Tony Stewart were involved in, and Ernie did a great job in that, winning a race as well in that one and vying for top 5 in the championship in that one. But here he is, winning in single-seaters. What can this guy do? He can do anything at the moment. So, let's take a look at the highlights then of Race 2 for FR. Away they went from the start. Missig got a good start, but look how everybody attacked him. And it wasn't long before everybody was on song and the tyres were up to temperature. Work to do for Josh Carr, who had to side his way through the back after a penalty after the first race, after being the cause of a collision. Off went the number 11 in big fashion, but luckily Deukmedjian saves it. And then Ernie Francis Jr. made a great move. So did Ryan Yardley to get up to second. And what a result it was for both Ernie Francis Jr. and Ryan Yardley. Francis wins his second race. Yardley gets his second podium. Here's the results, and Ernie Francis Jr. with that win over Ryan Yardley. Jordan Missig, who started from pole, takes third. Josh Carr, good job. More importantly, finishing ahead of TJ Speed Motorsports' Kyffin Simpson. And while it doesn't do a great deal, it just takes a few points off Kyffin, but that is as good as Josh could have hoped for. Logan Cusson in 6th place. Becklin, the youngster who you heard about there, who's been racing well in karts on the West Coast, 7th. Dylan Tavella, 8th. Kevin Jansen in 9th. And Arias Deukmedjian in 10th position. So, as we wind it down, and they'll come back into the pits, we'll take a short break, and we'll get ready for what should be another cracking race. We hope, anyway. IGT didn't get a good run last time out. They only got to do a couple of laps before a major incident got underway and caused effectively a red flag situation because there was too much fluid down on the ground. But, of course, we'll be going into the Parc Fermé with them in a moment. John Phippin's gone to look for them on the interview, and you can see them coming in here now. Now, they've got one more race tomorrow before the final round at Kota, which will be in November. And here they come. So the championship is almost in Kyffin's hand, but I think that result from Carr, depending on what happens tomorrow, could help him keep the championship alive. But what can you say? Ryan Yardley, what a performance by the Kiwi. He's not been in a race car in anger, and certainly not been in a championship in anger for the best part of the COVID time, which is 2 years. He's been working with Crossley, but not been racing. He is a champion in his own right from 86, the Tin Tops in New Zealand, but has been a single-seater aficionado and has also done the TRS Championship, where he got a scholarship as well. But well done to Ernie Francis Jr. His 2nd win in single-seaters. Well done, Ernie, and well-deserved, too. That was a good performance by the 98. He played that one well, and I think it was definitely the overtake of the day. Ran the outside at the horseshoe, and he knew if he kept his foot in, he would make it to NASCAR and take the lead, and that's exactly what happened. We're going to see that bright smile from the young Ernie Francis Jr. as he now turns to John Phippin and gets the interview. Well done, Ernie!
Ernie Francis Jr., your 2nd win on the season. You had to earn this one, my friend.
Yeah, I really had to work hard for it. You know, started 8th. Didn't have the first race we wanted. Had some contact out there and really put us on the back foot for the weekend. But yeah, car felt really awesome. The whole team with Future Star Racing and Wings and Wheels did a great job. Put a new setup on it for the 2nd race. Mitch Davis, man, he knocked it out of the park. The car was on fire. We went from 8th to 1st. Still in shock, really awesome with that. And but it's not over yet. Still got qualifying in Trans Am coming up in like 30 minutes. So ready for that and ready for the next race tomorrow.
Jonathan, he's a busy guy and a 2-time winner in